Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Age of Sigmar narrative show. I'm your host, Luke, Mr. Dadhammer, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Andrew.
Evening all.
How you been this week?
Yeah, pretty good. Trying to get some more halflings done.
Yeah, I've been seeing those halflings. They look amazing. We'll get into that in a bit. So I guess we'll do hobby focus first, just because I feel the news is going to take longer than normal.
Yep.
So what have you been up to? You've mentioned some halflings.
Yeah, I've been staring at these halflings I've had forever. Towards the end of 8th Ed Fantasy, I bought a crap load of them because there was those custom army books been put out for a whole lot of factions, and one of them was a straight halfling army. So I thought, oh, that sounds cool, and I started grabbing stuff, and then of course 8th went pop, and I'm stuck with piles and piles of halflings. And I love the models. I mean, these little guys are just so cool. And I've been trying to find a way to use them, and it kind of just dawned on me. I got the Loon Curse box, and I don't really want to play Sylvaneth straight, which we'll talk about later. But I thought I can come up with a narrative around the avatar of the hunt, Ryan, protecting fleeing halflings during the end times and setting them up in their own little enclave somewhere in Gairan. And I thought, well, then that sort of idea started to take shape. So then I started to write some background, and then I thought, perfect. And then I got all excited and dug them out and started painting.
Sweet. Yeah, awesome. Halflings are awesome.
I'm going to use it.
The halfling hot pot went on made to order. It goes up next week as well. That was hidden in amongst all the Forge World stuff this week.
Yeah, I think that they've sort of put it there as a Blood Bowl release for some reason. I'm not sure why, but because you do get a halfling master chef as a inducement in Blood Bowl, but I'm not really sure why you want the hot pot. But you know,
cool model nonetheless. If people love halflings, halfling hot pots are coming back for a limited time, so grab them.
Only a week apparently.
Yeah, still cool. It's a really cool old sculpt. I love that model.
Always use it in your free guild army as a cannon or something.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find some useful one. I guess myself, I've been smashing out the terrain for the Cinderful narrative event. I painted up 9 forests in a day, and then I've almost finished an entire board's worth of this. So not doing too much to it. A sort of icy scheme. I've got a couple of ice tables. Hint at anyone coming. There are a couple of ice tables. There's a really cool scenario in one of the older books that I want to use. The scenario should be up soon. I've just been piling and putting them together. But there's the one where you can fall into the ice. Where the board shatters. But so I've been smashing a bunch of that. I also started on some Liberators for a Vanguard wing, bring back the Vanguard wing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a unit of 30 Liberators that I'm working on.
Cool.
That's about it, really, hobby-wise. So, news, there's a lot, because we've had Warhammer Fest. We've had a bunch of stuff released for Forbidden Power and Warhammer community articles. So, yeah, we will start with, and we've had the Australian Championship one, I think, since the last time we talked. I don't think we've had. Yeah. So, well, we'll get into the first, I guess, subject, which is Warcry. We've had one new warband entirely revealed. 2 new? Yeah, 2 new, because we finally got the Untamed Beasts entirely revealed, and we got the Splintered Fang.
Yeah. Yeah, they really doing some new stuff there. Like, I think that they're challenging the preconceived notions of what chaos is.
Yeah, And well, like our first show, and why our first show was so important and such an important topic, I really advise you to go have a look at the first show that we did for the narrative show. The realms, and it's showing how the realms are affecting these particular warbands. Like Splintered Fang is all about poisons, and the reason they're that is because they're from the realm of life, where all these poisons would grow abundant in plants and insects and stuff. So,
if you're familiar in any way with Conan and Robert E. Howard, they look just like cultists of scent, with snakes everywhere.
Yeah, there's definitely. I've only seen a little bit of Conan. I'm not quite that age bracket, but I know enough.
Yeah. But I posted on, I think it was Facebook or Twitter, and just said, the feel of these new warbands are very much that sort of Robert E. Howard dark fantasy stuff.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, without a doubt. When I saw the Dark Oath dudes that came out for Shadespire or Warhammer Underworlds, sorry, correct name. Yeah, they just had that Conan vibe. There's that dude who literally looks like Conan.
Yeah, the helmet and everything. Yeah, the Frazetta, like the old Frazetta art.
Yeah.
So I think that's that idea that they've always been there in the background, in the fluff. The fact that just because in big armies, when you see chaos worshippers, you see chaos warriors, blood warriors, things like that. Your average run-of-the-mill chaos worshipper is not necessarily a great, huge warrior, especially in the mortal realms. So, if you existed for a whole age under the boot of chaos, people are just going to worship chaos as local god.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's cool about Warcry is we're going to get, maybe not, it's going to give you a ability to look at things, especially chaos, which is what they're obviously trying to aim for, at a really in-depth level, like very base level of it.
Yeah.
Because none of these dudes are marked at all. We suspected maybe the iron golems might have been corn marked at the original, but they're not even corn marked. They just have red armor. That's it. They're not corn marked. And then and so we're actually getting realm-based ones rather than god-marked ones, which is cool. So obviously we have
really now. Really is a departure from that previous sort of chaos stuff, where everything had to be corn or ancient noble or whatever. Now we're just getting these guys worship chaos in realm form, I guess.
Yeah. And we've got metal in the iron golems. We've got beasts in the untamed beasts. The name gives it away there. And we've got the realm of life in Splintered Fang. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get in like other realms. I mean, imagine like Realm of Light sounds so goody two shoes, but I can't wait to see what like chaos looks like in the Realm of Light. Like what just these base chaos dudes look in Realm of Light.
The really cool thing is because they really have shown us that how the other races exist in the mortal realms as opposed to the old world. Of course, we've seen a dwarf member of the golems, and then in the new one, we've got an elf chaos worshipper. There's
also an ogre in the golems as well.
So again, there's multiple racial perspectives that aren't your typical, Zana Grun chaos dwarf or your old school dark elf, who really won't chaos worship as anyone. So in the mortal realms, the races, all of them can be corrupted.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting sort of look, I guess, at stuff, like seeing that these other races can be, and it really leads you to believe, well, what is safe from chaos? And I mean, we've known in the vice versa that anything is salvageable by order.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to seeing more Warcry and seeing what we get.
Yeah.
And we do know it's a hard July. We don't know an exact when in July. We do know it's July.
Yeah.
And all warbands will be available upon release. All the new warbands, all the chaos-based ones, will be brand new models that are multi-part and are not set models.
Yeah.
As well as however, the additional races they put in will be using pre-existing kits.
Yeah, they announced that at Warhammer, I think it was. Someone asked the question. And they said, yeah, all the existing kits for other races will be able to be used.
Yeah. So very similar to what they did with Kill Team, how you've got like the Rogue Trader and all that out.
Yeah.
And then you just pick up a box of space for the scouts.
Yeah.
So moving on from Warcry, we got the next Shadespire reveal. He's a little bit interesting to talk about, I think. Or I keep saying Shadespire. I mean, it's called Shadespire in my mind. Warhammer Underworlds. So it was a lion. Very, yeah.
Yeah.
My dream?
I don't know. I mean, everyone went, oh my God, lion,
Lion Rangers.
Lion Rangers. But it's got like a very pointy, nasty thing on its tail. And its front teeth are a little bit almost ratty, like too big in size at the front. So I mean, it doesn't look like a Skaven thing, but I don't know whether it's a lion either. It's weird.
Yeah, I think it's just another one of the Mortal Realms of weird beasts. It's not going to be. It might be lion based, but it certainly isn't a lion.
Yeah, it does look. The armor on it though does look elvish.
Yeah, it just.
That would be.
Please be Lion Rangers.
That would be cool.
I love the white lion models. They're always my favorite high elf kit.
Well, see, if it is Lion Rangers or even something like that, it'll be the first of the old school factions that have had a new release. So, like, with Darkling Covens and Serpentis and that stuff, this would be the first.
Yeah. Oh, all bar Daughters of Cain, I guess.
Oh, yeah, but they got their own faction, so to speak. Whereas, if there's something like Darklings or Swift Talk Agents or something, still are stuck with whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to see what that turns out to. So, Shadespire is always. Oh, there we go again. Shadespire. Warhammer Underworlds. It's always nice to see. I mean, this year it really sort of led the way to see what we were getting.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the Gloomspite. We saw Zybag Gits come out before Gloomspite Gits. We've seen the Dark Oath Warband. I forget the name of them. Come out before Warcry. The KO. We're rumored to get a KO book. The Sylvaneth came out, and we know we're supposed to have a Sylvaneth book already, but unfortunately that's been delayed due to reasons outside of Games Workshop's control. Just stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with Shadespire is it really is the gateway drug for GW.
Yeah, bring people over from card games and stuff like that.
It crosses multiple genres. I mean, my wife's a blood bowler at heart, and she's got into Shadespire. She's got nearly all the warbands now. So
nice. So what else did we have at Warhammer Fest? We had Warcry. We had that. We got obviously the notification that Sylvaneth had been delayed. That's completely out of GW's control. You can't hold anything against them on that. So,
well, I'm sure.
Sure, people will try something, but there's nothing that can be done about it.
I was trying to.
Yeah, they've been honest. They've just said, "Look, we can't do anything."
Yeah, out of our control.
Yeah. I think that's almost. Oh, and obviously we had Forbidden Power shown off, the terrain especially.
And the Forbidden Power stuff.
Yeah, so now we'll get into Forbidden Power, which is the terrain we'll start with, because that was sort of one of the big shows they did. Yeah. And that looks fantastic.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is, I mean, if you listen to what people that went to the panels were saying, that GW are aware that the factions that don't have their own terrain as part of their thing, part of their books and things are a little bit behind. So some of these are generic terrain pieces that you can take in any army to get bonuses, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think, and you have I guess the counter argument is that but then the normal armies get them, but it's like but it's still, I'd rather have more with my army. It doesn't matter that you get more with your Daughters of Cain. Yeah. I'd rather get more with my Swift Talk Agents.
Exactly.
It's like the realm spells and all that sort of stuff. It's like realm spells for Daughters of Cain, that's all right, but you've got to use your other spells as well that you've already got that are better for you. Yeah. For me, who's got nothing, it's better to have the realm spells.
for us poor, Serpentis, etc. players, anything like that's a huge win.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's all modular. It looks a joy to play with. I'm thinking like building like multi-level stuff out of it.
And it doesn't look like the spinny thing is out this week, but all the other bits are.
Oh, the terrain piece that you can take with your army?
Yeah.
No, that's in the box.
Is it?
With the endless spells. Yeah, it's with the endless spells.
Okay.
So I guess that's the next part to talk about, is that box. You get the endless spells, the rules, and the rules and the piece.
Lots of narrative stuff in there.
Yeah, a lot. There's a cool 2 new army lists in there. The Legion of Grief, which I heard the cheers from every Nighthaunt player went out with that. So Lady Linda officially is the Legion of Nagash, and I think that sort of lens and where we're going to see a lot of the Death armies go. We're going to get more Legions of Nagash because we know it has 9 Mortarks out there somewhere.
Yeah, that's all I seem to see is Legions of Nagash. But yeah,
I think it further lends the point and like how some people view it, that the different legions are different armies in their own right. Legion of Nagash isn't an army. Grand Host of Nagash is an army. Legion of Sacrament's an army. And this sort of, I guess, furthers that, especially if we're going to get all these different legions. We're going to have each Mortark lead a legion.
Yeah.
Which is good. It'd be cool to see like all these different takes on death with each Mortark leading them.
Yeah, man, and that's good. Like you want them, from a storytelling perspective. If every death army is exactly the same, well then, what's the point?
And it's the point. People cry out for more death units. There's only, I guess, so much of a scope you can do with dead stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see Soulblight get done properly.
Yeah, I think the vampires and maybe some new zombies and upgrading maybe some Deadwalker stuff.
Yeah.
But there's not really a lot outside that you can do. Do not shout Tomb Kings at me. I'm over that.
Yeah, I'm hearing that as well. I know that.
I love them. I loved Tomb Kings back in the day, but they're gone, and they're gone forever.
Like the terms of the storytelling, the vampire army, you can do amazing things with that sort of Dracula-esque knightly order stuff. Some really cool stuff you can do, like from the old sort of Empire Counts type stuff, which is quite different to the other death stuff.
Yeah, I think vampires open up with like thralls and different ranks of vampire and foot troops, and
it could be a really unique death army.
Yeah, I mean, and then the obvious thing is you bring a Mortark out to lead that.
Yeah.
Bring a new Mortark around.
Bring back Vlad,
or I don't know, or maybe promote Vodrai to an actual Mortark. Something like you've got options. We'll get onto that subject in a bit. And then the other one is, I was trying to remember this all day, but you've got the free city that Soul Wars, the box set, is sort of fought over. Yeah. So you're going to get a new free city to play with, which is cool. Always for those.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the box itself is kind of a blend of Malign Portents and a new campaign, new Firestorm.
Yeah. I mean, I predicted it was going to be a Firestorm because it said it's called a Season of War.
Yeah.
But anyway. And then obviously we've got the new endless spells. They all look fantastic.
Yeah, the guy in his boat, which is
really good.
Basically, he's Charon. He's the ferryman from Greek mythology.
I love the rule for it. It is such a cool mechanic. It's so narratively inspired. It's fantastic.
Like you throw right across the battlefield at the cost of one of your souls.
Yeah, it's so cool. Just such a cool rule.
Yeah, and for that, there'll be a lot of people that won't take it because you lose a model, but I think that's just really cool.
Yeah, it's just we pay the ferryman's toll.
Right.
and then you got the bridge.
Yeah, I looked at that, and you know, from a rules perspective, I just don't see why you'd take that over the ferryman. But
yeah, I think I shared the donut deployment. It's within 3 inches for him, but it's a lot more than you think. And we're getting a little bit out of narrative, but go have a look at my Twitter. I posted up the measurements and how many you can fit.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than you would think. It is 30 32 millimeters and 54 25 millimeters.
Yeah.
And then I think they worked it out. It was 19 40 mils.
Yeah. Even from a storytelling perspective, you could actually build an army around that endless spell.
Yeah.
The army petitioning the ferryman, you know, that sort of stuff. Really cool.
Yeah, and then we've got the 2 others. We've got which one of them I really like this idea behind, but then I guess the first one is the prisms of, I forget the name of them.
Yeah, exactly.
The little and then you've got the ghast, which is a creature. The thing that looks like Nagash's head is actually a creature and a shapeshifter. It's like effectively a Bogart from Harry Potter. It's pretty similar. It turns into your fear, and that's why it looks like Nagash, because Nagash is everyone in the realm of death's fear.
Sometimes it just lowers your bravery, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest endless spell in the world, but it's got a cool story, and I like the idea of like, why does it look like? Why is it Nagash's head? Well, it's trying to scare you, and Nagash's head is a scary thing to see pop out of the mist.
The pyramid-y things look very similar. Well, I think they're the same as the ones the terrain for Underworlds. Including your Underworlds games.
Yeah. I think the last thing really is we know the idea of what the story is. So we've got Lady Alinda and the Legion of Grief is attacking this free city, and then we've got and they're trying to free a long lost tyrant that was an ally.
Yeah.
So ally being the key word. It's not Cetra, because it says ally.
Cetra didn't like him.
They were mortal. They were the exact opposite of allies.
Yeah.
They were mortal enemies.
Yeah, so a lot of
like Archaon and Sigmar. Yeah. That's how close these guys were.
A lot of speculation when they said that as to who that was going to be.
Yeah, there's a few names that I've seen thrown about. You mentioned before Vlad. Yeah. I've seen Aborash thrown around a lot as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The ghouls don't really like him much either.
And the other one was Van Horstman.
Yeah. I'd like to see Vlad. Vlad was always my favourite of the Von Castons.
It's most certainly not going to happen, but I want it to be Luther Harkin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want me some zombie pirates of the Vampire Coast in it.
Yeah.
Like, you can fit that in Age of Sigmar. That theme goes in Age of Sigmar so well. I mean, we just got the ferryman model.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Conflict between the Ideneth Deep Kid and the Vampire Pirates. That would be cool.
Yeah. It's most certainly probably not Luther Harkin. He's pretty far down the list. But if it was, you heard it here first.
I mean, if we're talking about the vampires before, if it is one of the vampires, you know, we might be seeing the opening stages of the Soulblight stuff coming in, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's Vlad, I think your pick on Soulblight is most certainly a it could also be what about, I guess the other one maybe Zacharias?
Yeah, Ever Living, possibly.
I think the only Mortarch that didn't make it through, like that did something naughty that Nagash would probably go against him, is the Blood Dragon dude, because he fell to Khorne.
Yeah.
My friend has an entire army of Blood Knights and Black Knights, all built on Juggernauts. Cool. Around that theme.
I think if they do Zacharias, that allows GW to do another zombie dragon model.
Yeah.
Do
But yeah. So I guess the last bit of news is that I'm going to be doing a new show on the channel. It's going to be called Exploring the Narrative, where I'll be grabbing people from the community talking about their own narrative for their own armies, hopefully to inspire people to do it themselves.
It's me digging.
Hopefully to inspire people to do their own narrative and build on themselves and see how some people have brought things in different ways that they've grown their own narrative. I've currently got quite a few shows. I'll obviously be doing one with Andrew at some time. I'll interview myself, I guess, in that group. But I've also got
questions.
Yeah, I've also got James Mabry from the Mortally Wounded podcast. He'll be the first one, and he's coming on next Monday.
Yep.
Do it. I've set up one with the Aussie Wargamer, and I've just set one up with Alexander Cron, the Lord Magnate himself.
Cool.
So we'll have Caradron, Death, Bretonians, and a bunch of others, and Sylvaneth, and a bunch of other things to talk about.
Yep.
And on those, I've decided I'm going to do something really fun on those. I'm going to do a questionnaire at the end on narrative of Age of Sigmar. We'll see who gets the best at the end. So there'll be a cool little challenge for everyone that comes on and does that to see who knows the narrative the best. And I'll be posting up what question I'm going to ask James after this show on Twitter, and you're more than welcome to come vote, and what I will be on subjects that I'll be asking James about.
Ooh.
So, and I'll do that for everyone who's coming on. So, with that out of the way, and also please do go check out all three of those guys' stuff. They all do a bit of content creation. Obviously, James is from the Mortally Wounded podcast with Chris Welfare. It's a fantastic podcast of a really nice mix of a dude doing narrative and a competitive player. They both bring very different aspects to it.
Yep. With those guys that are running Sydney Slaughter in a few weeks.
Yes, Sydney Slaughter. I believe tickets are now closed.
Yeah, closed yesterday.
Yeah, so tickets are closed, unfortunately. However, if you're going to Sydney Slaughter, all the best of luck. I hope you have a blast. The custom missions that Chris is putting up look fantastic. And he's got a podcast out about custom missions. So custom missions are something pretty narrative sort of driven. Like, he likes to put a little bit of narrative in all his scenarios, and they're all based on sort of recent releases. So go give them a check out, definitely, on their latest podcast. Aussie Wargamer, fantastic bloke. I met him for the first time at CanCon. He has a YouTube channel where he talks a lot about his own sort of hobby project. He's a fantastic painter and hobbyist in general. Go give him a subscribe.
His road to CanCon stuff. The army he put together for that was just magic. It really was.
Yes, and that will definitely be a focus in an army I'll be talking about on when he comes on. And then Cron's recently started a podcast with a bunch of other top Caradron Overlord generals that he does through YouTube as well, called Aethercast. Go give them a check out, especially if you're into Caradron Overlords. These are a bunch of players who know their narrative, know their competitive side, and know just everything about Caradron Overlords. So if you're looking and you're thinking about that army, they're the guys to go give a listen to. It's like, Ron's a really good player. I play with him on a regular basis. He knows KO. Yeah, so now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about what we're here to talk about today, which is Sylvaneth. We were hoping that we'd have the new battle tome at this, and we may revisit it sometime sooner rather than later if the new battle tome comes out and a lot of stuff changes. But the main point, we're going to talk about Sylvaneth today and how you can narratively build up an army of Sylvaneth. And we're going to take a little bit of a focus into Kurnoth Hunters and Branch Witches, both of which have been announced as playable characters in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar roleplay game by Cubicle 7. And likely we will have a Kurnoth Hunter player on this channel when we go live with it, with our own stream of it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Cubicle 7 have gone that route too is interesting, because people tend to look on the Sylvaneth as almost, like automatons rather than individual entities. Two different characters. I'll throw that narrative up in the air.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on that when we touch on the characters. I think, for starters, the first question should be, who are the Sylvaneth? If you want to go for a bit.
Yeah, if you played 8th edition at all, well, towards the end of 8th edition, the Wood Elves started to get more and more tree things. And when the World that Was blew up, those three things became the Sylvaneth, got their own faction. And essentially in Sigmar lore, the Sylvaneth are the protectors of woodlands, forests. They're a cross between sort of Tolkien-esque tree people and the Fae, old school fairies. So they've got a lot of little mystical creatures that follow them around called spites. And they do everything from, or current, given the new models, allowing individual Sylvaneth to fly, to producing endless supplies of arrows, assisting in spell casting, all sorts of things like that. But in terms of who they are, they're essentially those woodland defender types. And they're led by Alariel, the queen in the wood, who used to be in 8th edition one of the Wood Elf gods, and sort of rose to prominence on her own after the World That Was blew up. She leads them. She rides to battle on a gigantic spite, a Wardroth beetle. And a lot of people tend to think of Sylvaneth as a very realm of life force. It's not the case. There are Sylvaneth in all the realms, and there's some great stories you can do and paint schemes you can do depending on where your Sylvaneth are from. So people tend to imagine things like Akshi, the realm of fire, being all hot and volcanic, but there are still forests there. What do tree people that come from the realm of fire look like? Ashen, maybe glowing coals for eyes, all that sort of stuff. But they're defending those forests.
Yeah, and I've seen a few really good takes on Sylvaneth around the community, like Angry Wargamer and his Driftwood Sylvaneth. I believe that's him that did Driftwood Sylvaneth, and like literally doing that in the Alliance Wood and Sea sort of connection, and doing Sylvaneth that were made up of Driftwood.
Yeah,
which is cool. There's also really good stuff in some of the narrative stories, like you mentioned, Fire. There's some stuff in that on in Realm Slayer. There's also some cool stuff in Heart of Winter about Realm of Beasts, Sylvaneth, and
a bit more feral.
Yeah, you see, and that leads back to clans, on what we'll get talking to a little bit later, on like the particular major clans. And all Sylvaneth sort of come from the major clans. You might be another named clan, but you sort of draw heritage to one of these great clans.
Yes, and those clans have different outlooks and different strengths.
Yes. So Realm of Beast has a lot of Dreadwood Sylvaneth, just due to their savage nature. And we'll get more into the Dreadwood later. But I think, for starters, we'll look at how like a Sylvaneth community or army is put together. Community and army in Sylvaneth are one and the same. Every Sylvaneth fights for his homeland. They're all bred with a purpose.
Their grove.
I guess we'll start there a little bit first. Like, so what a war grove is based around is their glade. And all Sylvaneth war groves or groves have this glade that is central to their entire society and is filled with their soul pods. And soul pods are literally the Sylvaneth souls growing into new Sylvaneth.
It's a magical fruit, so to speak.
Yeah. It's also another one of those cases of Nagash is owed something and not given it. It's why Nagash doesn't like Alariel. Because she and her Sylvaneth have ways to keep their souls and they regrow. Effectively, a Sylvaneth can never die, sort of. It's reborn anew. Very, I guess, reincarnation, sort of like
It's similar to Sigmar's soul forging, except they don't do it in alchemical or magical means. It's the spiritual energy of the forest bringing them back to life.
Yeah,
they reincarnate.
Yeah, and it's entirely not that same Sylvaneth, I guess, in person. It is a new Sylvaneth that grows up. Just it's from the seed, effectively, of the Sylvaneth before it. And so obviously these soul pods are so utterly important to Sylvaneth, they will defend them with their lives. And if a soul pod grove is lost, that household knows that it's on borrowed time. It's got no chance to come back. Like when they die then. So like in all things with Age of Sigmar, there's immortality to an extent.
Which is why when Nurgle invaded Iran early in the Age of Chaos, it was such a major threat because he started corrupting all of the soul pod groves. And, the Sylvaneth ran the risk of going out forever.
Yeah, it's really quite an interesting sort of look on them. Like, I really like the idea of the soul pods and how they continuously regrow. Obviously, Nurgle is the perfect villain for them because it's rot and decay. But yes, so that's what Sylvaneth are fighting for. And so it's in these hidden groves in the forest from when they protect the forest. Now, at the head of the clans are the Tree Lord Ancients. These are giant tree-like men or man-like trees, whichever way you want to look at it. And they tower these 15, 20 feet tall creatures. They're huge. Incredibly wise, and they're wizards to boot.
GW took a fair bit from Tolkien there, and then added their own flavour to it, which is what GW want to do.
I remember when the Tree Lord models first came out I'm an old school Wood Elf player. When those Tree Lords first came out in 8th edition fantasy, the difference between them and if you go look for what old Tree Lords were, I own every Tree Lord that's ever existed, and they're amazing. There's nothing short of utterly fantastic models.
And the amount of variation in them as well, what you can do with them is just amazing.
Yeah. And so, so you have your head of your clan, which is a singular Tree Lord Ancient. He will be the one who leads the clan. Sort of, I guess, like Treebeard led the Ents. Yeah. Very similar to that. And you'll get these councils, which literally that scene from Lord of the Rings is very much what happens at these councils. You have the Tree Lords, the other Tree Lord Ancients. And as the name suggests, Tree Lords are the younger ones, Tree Lord Ancients are the much older ones. Self-explanatory there. And they are all sort of form the council which elects what the Grove does. Yeah. So, and so these giant leader Sylvaneth. I guess just to sort of answer that question, that do Dryads grow into Tree Lords? No, they don't. They're entirely different. They're different species, and I guess are very they grow into what they will be. A Tree Lord can become a Tree Lord Ancient, but a Dryad can't become a Tree Lord.
The Dryad, I think the Dryads can be produced very quickly. Their soul pods mature quicker.
Yeah. Tree Lord soul pods take ages, literally ages, pass. There were stories, and there's a really good book on Sylvaneth. If you're really looking to get into Sylvaneth, I really recommend going and getting it. The Legends of the Sylvaneth. It's got some really interesting ones. There's one where a Tree Lord, talking about this Tree Lord's not even known about the War of Chaos. He's waking up when Sigmar is actually first coming down. That's how long these soul pods take to grow.
That book's still available?
I hope it is. It's probably available on ebook at the very least.
Yeah. Because it's pretty old now.
Yeah. Interesting thing for anyone noticing. I guess this is completely irrelevant to the narrative show, but old books, they're always available on iTunes. Like, I can still pick up Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition battle tomes.
Yeah.
And I have picked up a few just to read some of the old lore. Completely off topic there. We'll go back on the topic now. And so, obviously, we have, this is known as the Lords of the Clan, and there's a battalion for this in the army, which is cool. So if you want to run this particular thing, you can run it in a battalion in your army that allows you to narratively reflect this bunch of tree lords coming together.
Yep.
And directly under them, we have the household battalions. They're sort of like knightly battalions within the Sylvaneth, I guess. There's a way to sort of talk about them. They're each led by a tree lord. So he's like the up and coming. Obviously, the ancients are all doing the council stuff, but the tree lords have their clans that they do with. And they've got a tree lord at their heart, and then they've got a branch witch. A branch witch is, I guess we'll talk a bit more in depth about, because you can play one of these in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar roleplay game. A branch witch is the tender of the groves. They spend their entire lives collecting soul pods of their fallen comrades and bring them back to the grove to tend for them and bring them back up to New Sylvaneth.
Yeah, Space Marine apothecaries.
Yeah, very, very similar. I guess this opens up really cool narrative playing aspects in the roleplay game.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, where are these soul pods? And like, as a GM, you can go, well, I'm going to fling soul pods here and here, and these are what your character is looking for. Are you looking for the site of some ancient battle, or perhaps the villains like taken some?
And that's something your character's going to have to think about when you're doing your creation. Why is this tender of souls out, not being alongside a kin? What sent her out of her grove?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that she's trying to collect souls. It could be that she's been tasked with something to protect the souls. The Tree Lord Ancients have decided, because they're pretty powerful mages, they've seen the future or something. And this particular path might come to pass if this enemy gets to do this. So your whole goal is trying to stop said enemy doing that. Yeah, it's an interesting character choice. It's probably not the easiest one I would have thought to build a character around. The other one we'll touch on in a sec is most certainly, I think, the easier of the two to build a story on. And then the last part of the household is the tree revenants. These are like your half elf, half tree people looking models.
Yeah, and they're the ones that I think, from my perspective, I just really like the whole aesthetic of those models. Sort of ghostly elf drifting out of what looks like a dryad. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice, like, they're really nicely blended together. The right parts where they need to be on them. They look really quality models. And they're effectively your baseline troop of the Sylvaneth. These are your basic warriors. Because as we touch on later, the others aren't sort of they're more the, I guess, the men at arms.
Yeah.
But these are your actual bred Sylvaneth warriors. So that's your household, and we don't really have a lot of information on them, so I won't touch too much on them. You have the Arch Revenant, which is a type of tree revenant. So I'm assuming he fills some sort of leader role within a household battalion, maybe, or maybe he leads multiple battalions.
Yeah, we've got to wait for the new book to find out exactly how all that works.
Yeah, so we don't really know a lot on him, but he is a tree revenant hero, so we'll find out more on that.
There's a little bit in the first book, but not much.
Hello to Mr. To Duke Cadric. How are you? I swear I know who that person's real name is.
It's your. It's James.
I thought so. Knew it was. I know that. So I guess the last part of the Wargroves that's directly in the Wargrove, and we'll get to the parts, the other parts in a sec, is the Forest Folk. So these are your civilian-esque. They're still war-ready. These are your more civilian Sylvaneth. And that is the Branchwaves and the Dryads. They're effectively forest folk. They're your general people who rock around the forest doing whatever it is that forest folk do.
Tree spirits.
Yeah. They don't do the transformation anymore like they used to in fantasy, if I'm to be correct. I think they're just trees now.
Yep, just tree people.
Yeah. There's not really a lot to touch on here. The forest folk are who they are. They're literally civilian and your man-at-arms and all that.
And in terms of just the story, they are more plentiful, and when you summon stuff in game, you're summoning them generally.
Yes.
So they're the ones that they're in every forest. So whenever there are forests on the table and you summon them, they appear in the forest because they come out of the trees and that sort of thing.
Yeah, most certainly is how it works. Yeah, there's not really too much to touch on there. There are a pretty basic idea of what they are. There's not really a lot of interest in them character-wise. I guess the branch race is sort of your leaders of the forest folk. They're, I guess, your elected leaders of them.
Yeah.
And they summon their minions to them. Now, there's two sort of outside-ish factions within the Sylvaneth. The first of them is the Free Spirits, which we get talking through quite a bit. There are the Kurnoth Hunters and the Spirits of Durthu. So we'll talk about the Spirit of Durthu first, just because we're not going quite as in depth on him. We'll talk more about the Kurnoth Hunters. So the Spirit of Durthu, Durthu, who is he, or who was he?
Well, Durthu was the special character head of the tree peoples in 8th edition. And before, he predates 8th, doesn't he?
Durthu has been around since Wood Elves' inception.
Yeah.
He's a secondary character.
Yeah. The original model for him wasn't great.
Oh, no, it was not. Like inch-long arm stuck out of nowhere.
Arm too big for the rest of him. But no, with the collapse of the world that was, he was evaporated, I guess. And the spirits of Durthu contain elements of him. So they're not necessarily tree lords. Well, they are of a sort, I suppose, but they're more spirits, forest spirits.
Yeah, they're free. They're not sort of sworn to Alariel like a lot of the other stuff. Very independent. But they are the mightiest warriors of the Sylvaneth at the same time.
Yeah, and they tend to attract other mighty warriors.
Yes.
More of a martial bent than even the other tree lords, as much as they're protectors. They're still their existence is not necessarily bred for war, whereas Durthu is all about let's kick some ass.
Yeah. And I guess the next characters to move on to are the Kurnoth Hunters. Now, Kurnoth, that name may seem somewhat familiar to some. It does sound an awful lot like Kurnoth.
Yes.
And effectively, it's the same thing. It's just a new name for it. Kurnoth is the god of the hunt. Kurnoth was the god of the hunt. Kurnoth is a smaller but still plentifully worshipped deity of Alariel, of the Sylvaneth. He is Alariel's apparent consort. So we're getting more on this Kurnoth, Orion sort of theme to this. We don't have a clue what he looks like, but we do know that Alariel has his spear as well. Funny enough, spear of Kurnoth. The spear of Kurnoth was what Orion's weapon. I really want this story expanded more.
Yeah, I mean, Orion was such a cool character in the old world. Very Celtic mythology. sleeps during the winter, wakes up refreshed every spring, god of the hunt stuff. And it was one of those elements of Warhammer that was just so true, I guess, to the myths, and it worked really well with the Wood Elves, and which is why I'm trying to work the old model into this new army, just because the model's beautiful and the lore is amazing.
Yeah, and we know at the end times, Alariel picked up Orion's ashes when he fell in battle against Tyrion. Mm-hmm. We don't know what she did with said ashes, so we'll see what it is.
Yeah. If you think about the whole soul pod thing,
maybe he's sitting in one somewhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, back onto Kurnoth Hunters. They are spirits who embody Kurnoth's wrath. They hunt, like as the name suggests, they're hunters of the hunter god. And they seek out enemies of the Sylvaneth and enemies of just order in general, wherever they are. They will hunt across realms for them. And so they really lend themselves to Age of Sigmar roleplay game character.
Yeah.
It's a hunter. It's a giant hunter, but it's a hunter.
Right.
And yes, the models are fantastic. The artwork, have you seen the artwork for the Age of Sigmar RPG with like the Kurnoth Hunter and the like dynamic posing of him in the background aiming that bow and arrow is amazing.
Amazing, yeah. Again, I'd be interested to see how people get their head around role-playing one. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing, like, I think a good point about the Age of Sigmar RPG is we have actual Age of Sigmar authors and the creative team from Age of Sigmar and all the guys behind the narrative working on the roleplay game. So the narrative in the game will reflect the narrative that we have already.
Yeah. Which
is sort of what struggled in some previous stuff when like Fantasy Flight Games had a bunch of like the 40k ones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was always conflicting narrative.
Yeah. But I think too that's so getting off topic, that's a facet of the reborn GW, if you like. Much more involved, whereas before it was like, well, yeah, we'll sell you the rights. How much money have you got?
Yeah. Actually, I will add. No worries. Night, James. Have a good one, mate. I will make on that point. Anyone who likes 40k, Cubicle 7 just got the rights for Wrath and Glory, the 40k one as well. So Cubicle 7 are doing the entire line of Games Workshop roleplay games.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, they already did the One Ring, which is a One Ring one, which is a really, really good roleplay system.
Yeah, you do a good job, Cubicle 7.
Yeah, getting a little bit off topic, but yeah, it's good to see that they're all in one place and they're all getting proper Games Workshop help. I think is the point in this. So anyway, back onto Kurnoth Hunters. Yeah, it's a good character base. It's probably a bit more easier than the Branch Witch. Like, while we still have those I'm a tree people problems,
yeah,
it's probably the easier of the two, I think, to build a character around, because you've got a hunter is a lot easier to build motive around.
Yeah, motivation's easier.
Yeah. And with any good role-playing game character, motivation is essential.
Yeah.
So, and I guess, right, on to the last part of a Sylvaneth Wargrove, which is outside, are the Outcast, which are Spike Revenants.
Mm-hmm.
There's something not quite right with these Sylvaneth.
Yeah, they've spirits that have somehow been corrupted, possessed of a nasty streak.
Yeah. There's not been an awful lot explained on why they're so nasty. You might assume maybe the chaos manifestations and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's changed them.
And I think if you read or listen to some of the stuff that's coming out of GW about the way they're designing their rules and things now, I suspect initially it was simply a case of we wanted to be able to make two things out of the one kit. So that was we had to figure out where they fit, and that's why I think the background to the sprites is a little bit scared.
Yeah. But I think that's really part of that's really sort of the main parts of like the Sylvaneth Wargrove talked about. There's a couple of good characters that'll be playable in the roleplay game there. There's some really good, I guess, understanding that you can go forward on how you're going to want to build your Wargrove and where you want to focus. So, like we were saying before, all Wargroves stem from one of these great Wargroves. You can have your own named one and do your own things, but you will fall back, I guess, to one of these Wargroves somewhere down your line in your lineage. So we'll go through all of them, just talk a little bit about what they are, and sort of give some tips and ideas on what we think you can do with that sort of thing, and like what units would really better represent. I mean, these are going to change. I won't go too much into battalions, but the battalions do sort of give you an idea of the units that are more plentiful in that particular thing.
Yeah, and we don't know if they're going to shift that when the new battle time comes out.
So the rules might change, but the narrative will stay relatively the same, we assume. So the first one up is Oakenbrow. There's more tree lords in Oakenbrow than anything else. They're also one of the great ones, probably the biggest and the greatest of all the Wargroves. They're resilient and tenacious, and they just will not stop. They will always fight to the last. So on the battlefield, this is represented with like nobility rules and all that sort of stuff. They get a few extra wounds on like some models, like to represent they're just that bit harder to kill, and it requires that you have to have Lords of the Clan battalion with more tree lords and stuff than normal.
Yeah, they're also set up as that almost knightly order type stuff. The nobility of this grove is kind of what's key. That's why you get so many of the tree lords and stuff.
Yeah. So that's the first one. The next one is the Nalroot Wargrove. These are the magic-y Sylvaneth.
Yeah. And I was looking through. They're cool. Actually, in the old battle time, the artwork for each of these groves is just really cool.
Yeah, you get their symbol and a nice big picture in the middle.
Yeah.
Like a little like shade background picture of what they're about.
Yeah. The Nalroot, the basic premise of the Nalroot is their tree lord ancients are really, really ancient. They've been around since the fall and stuff, since the death of the old world, and their magical power surpasses, most others, even though other tree lords. And of course, they pass that on to the other magic wielders in the grove.
Yeah, being the branch witches and branch wraiths. I think we should stop there for a sec, because we didn't really mention that much. We're talking about the branch witch. She is a wizard.
Yeah.
So an RPG character, a wizard.
Yeah.
Be a client.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit about her. I guess that sort of steps her up, because there's not been that many wizards announced. There's her and the Tidecaster, I think, are the only ones announced at the moment.
Yeah. You don't really know how they're going to do spells either, because they've said it's a completely new system. It's not like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. We don't know how they're going to do that yet.
Yeah. I think the one thing they've released is spells and prayers are somewhat similar.
Yeah.
They've dumbed that down to make it easier to run as a GM, so you're not having to remember two vastly different systems.
There's like arcane divine magic in Pathfinder.
Yeah, and that's what they said. I always found that was fantasy roleplay is the systems to get priests to do stuff and the system to get wizards to do stuff is ridiculously different. Especially when I was playing a lot of 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. The systems were so hugely different between the two. It was not a pleasant experience as a DM, like having to. And then your players forget. Your players forget as well, because they see the dude next to them cuts the spell, and they're like, "Oh, prayer's somewhat similar," and it's nothing like it. So yeah, hopefully they've announced. Well, nothing's official yet. We just talk a bit. And so yeah, I think that's where they're going: divine and arcane. magic.
Yep.
The next one is the Ironbark Wargrove. These dudes are like tacticians and the better warriors.
Yeah, and they also, the interesting part, they deal with Duarden a lot.
Yeah, as the name would suggest, they're very hardened.
And they can actually have, I think, in rules terms, they can actually have a couple of Duarden units in their battalions.
Yeah, which is cool.
A couple of dispossessed units or something.
Yeah, or even Fire Slayers or Caradron Overlords. Yeah. I mean, the Caradron are a bit harder to fit in, I guess, narratively, but we talked about it last time in the Fire Slayer episode about the Fire Slayers that live in the trees.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a really cool one. I'm seeing like how trees and dwarves get along when the dwarves probably won't, I guess, might use dead wood as fuel for fires. They won't pick fresh wood or something to, like, you know, agree with the Sylvaneth that they coexist with.
So again, that's where GW really, worked hard to shift that narrative away from traditional dwarf stuff into Duarden. You do have those guys that will work alongside tree people as opposed to just cutting the trees down to fuel their forges.
Yeah, the order races are a lot more coexisting.
Yeah,
with each other. They don't always like each other, and they're probably not always on the best of terms. But in coexisting, they understand. Well, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. We both hate chaos.
Yes.
We also both don't want to die.
Yeah,
it'd be really interesting to look at like a symbiotic army between, and how that narrative of you like there's symbionism. I guess that's a word between the two.
Yeah.
The next one to look at is Winterleaf. This says enough about what they are.
Cold.
They're cold. Effectively, this was for anyone who painted a winter schemed Wood Elf army in 8th edition. This was the one for you, because everyone painted winter schemed Wood Elf armies in 8th edition. Because everyone going, I don't want to paint green because I'm going to be different, and then no one paints green, everyone paints blue. So, if someone says to you, I'll give this advice now because I've got a few friends who painted like armies just like GW out of the box. That army is probably more unique than almost any other color scheme you think of, because no one paints like on the box. Don't listen to someone. If you want a unique army, paint it like it's on the box, because no one else will. My mate, one of my friends' Seraphon armies is exactly that. He's painted the blue, like, the stereotypical blue Seraphon from like 5th edition. I've never seen an actual Sylvaneth Seraphon army painted like that. There are always some other weird and wacky colors. It's like, I paint them like that because everyone does. They're in different schemes. I'm just going to do the box scheme. And sure enough, it's the only one I've ever seen.
Yep.
Yeah, Winterleaf, they're really cold in like demeanor and everything about them.
They care nothing for their own lives, let alone the lives of others.
However, they can have order allies within them. Because these guys really hate chaos and they're really bitter about what chaos did to them. They were hurt a bit more than a lot of the other wargroves. And so people who hate chaos fit really well into this theme. I can imagine like a witch hunter or something getting along really well with these Sylvaneth. He's hunting chaos and they'd work really well with him.
Yep.
Just interesting. You can put it in any at current. You can put any order unit free out of allies, so no ally requirements in there, into an army. At current, it's probably going to change. I will say all these battalions probably will change. That's why we're trying not to talk too much about the rules.
Yeah, because they're relatively easy to. Sylvaneth army, as it stands, is relatively easy to get multiple battalions in because the requirements for most of the wargroves is not huge.
No. But yeah, so you've got a lot of interesting aspects you can look at with Winterleaf. I guess the next, and then on to the next one, the Dreadwood. This is the one you'll see at tournaments a lot. It's a really good one if you want something really good, but we won't talk too much about that here.
Ambushes, sneaky.
Yeah, and horrible. They don't like outsiders, these Sylvaneth.
Yes, they leave the remains of people hanging from their trees and things, so worn off outsiders. Just creepy, sneaky, horrible people.
Yeah, these guys are very much more like the tree spirits from fantasy.
Yeah.
They hate outsiders, like so much so they even hate elves and people that live within their own forest that they're supposed to coexist with. And yeah, you walk into a Dreadwood glade, you are probably dead.
Yeah.
And as a result, there are a lot more spite revenants apparent in this. And everything, and it's probably got something to do why they're a little bit crazy.
Something like
that. And we're on to the last one here, which is the Harvestboon Wargrove.
No, I forgot Heartwood.
Did you mean?
Heartwood, yeah.
Oh yeah, I completely skipped it. So we'll go on to Harvestboon first, and we'll go back to Heartwood. I skipped it when I was reading through the notes. So Harvestboon. These guys, they're speed and agility, they're swift and aggressive. They sort of spread the forest quicker than anyone else.
They're kind of old spring type. Because we can all, as well as the realms, you can also see the seasons in a lot of the Sylvaneth. These are sort of aspects of the spring, fresh and lively.
Yeah. While your winter leaves are very cold and as such, like in the army, the battalion as such at the moment, you can put extra forest folk in. And it just, they're plentiful, and there's so many of this one growing. They're one of the most thriving Sylvaneth wargroves there are around. And so we'll go on to the last one that I accidentally missed, the Heartwood Wargrove. Now they're worshippers of Kurnoth. They revere him above all others. And so they're hunters.
Battalions can have extra Kurnoth hunters in it, funnily enough.
Yep. All of that makes sense. And yeah, effectively this is just taking that Kurnoth hunter sort of narrative and dialing it to 10. There's not really that much more to the Harvestboon than that, really. They're Sylvaneth that revere Kurnoth over Alariel more. They still like Alariel, but Kurnoth's their thing.
That's what would be good. I think it'd be good to see some more of the Kurnoth story come out.
Yeah, well, I think we've got some of that with the Arch Revenant. We know he's a worshipper of Kurnoth.
Yeah, because it does actually give you another option, really, with the Sylvaneth, other than the children of Alariel or whatever. You can actually be the vindictive hunters, which would be really cool if we get more of it.
Yeah, and you could get, I guess in the future, you can get more models that represent Kurnoth's sort of aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of potential to grow as something for the army.
Grow, get it?
Yeah. That was not an intentional pun, but I made plenty in the Fire Slayers one, so got one in here too. So the last battalion in the current book is really cool for a narrative sort of game as well. There's a battalion in the book called the Guardians of Alariel. This is if you really want a pre-existing narrative to base an army around, this is a really cool story to do it on. It features some of my favorite Stormcast characters in it, and some Sylvaneth, which are super cool. So you go.
Yeah, the battalion includes both, so you include it writes the narrative kind of for you.
Yeah. So you've got a branch witch in there who is called the Lady of the Vines. You've got a couple of tree lords, some dryads, a Lord Castellan, which is representing Loris Grimm, who is a Lord Castellan from the Hallowed Knights, Warrior Chamber of Stormcast, the silver ones, and some Judicators and Liberators. And effectively, these are the army that Grimm was seeking out Alariel, is the story. But when he found it, he realized that Torglug had been following him. Torglug is being a Chaos Noble champion. More on him later, because that story is interesting. And effectively, the Lady of the Vines, the Lady of Vines has some secret thing that'll wake Alariel. And so they've gone, oh crap, we've led them straight to Alariel. We need to wake her up quick. And they're the defenders of Alariel.
Alariel's soul pod, isn't she?
Yeah.
And they've got to protect it from the evil, stinky noble people.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk more about that. That needs a whole show on its own, talking about the War of Life.
Yeah.
And Torglug, go do some research on him. I won't spoil too much, but it's really cool. His whole story arc.
Yeah.
I guess, is there anything else we can really talk about? I guess let's talk about how to paint Sylvaneth, I guess, and how you can use narrative to influence the painting we've got, I guess, and building them.
Yeah, because I think the temptation for a lot of people with Sylvaneth is that on first glance, it feels like a very quick army to put together, to paint physically.
If your army is nothing but dryads and tree lords, it probably can be.
Spray it black and dry brush a few shades of brown, and you're more or less done. But I think that's underselling the models.
Yeah.
My wife yelling at the dog. Yeah, because there's so much you can do with them. And if you have a quick look online, will show you what some people have been able to do with those kits. A simple addition of some greenery in the tops of their branches and stuff, and a few blossoms here and there, and all of a sudden you've got a really unique looking forest.
I'm actually going to be doing something quite interesting because I got a Loon Curse box to split with a little sister. She's fascinated with teeth on legs, aka squigs. But I'm going to be green stuffing up some apples. I'm going to make an apple tree army.
Yeah, cool.
That's my whole idea for my Sylvaneth. I'm like, well, there are all sorts of other trees. What about fruit trees? So apple trees, if you've actually seen them in bloom, are actually quite pretty.
Yeah.
With apple blossoms and stuff like that. They're actually a quite pretty looking tree. And so I want to take that and just some little green stuff balls and make some apples and hang them off. And that's my plan for my Sylvaneth.
It's going to be a big task. You'd be sick of rolling balls of green stuff by the end.
Probably will, but it'll be cool. Like, I want to do something. I was like trying to nail down a really narrative themed focus thing I could do. Because there's not an awful lot. I've got my Stormcast narrative, and there's not an awful lot I want to change them in that, and they look normal.
Yeah.
And I've already started painting a heap of them.
Well, with the allies for my little folk, I've been trying to think of, because they're going to be primarily based around Kurnoth, because he's their protector. So I'm thinking about how I'm going to do their branches as well. And so I don't want to just leave them there. I want to do something that I've seen some really good like cherry blossom type stuff. Yeah,
the cherry blossom, I was thinking about it, but I've seen it done quite a few times, and I was just like,
there's a lot of people have already done it.
Yeah, I'm just like, nah. Like I said, the winter scheme wood elves.
And I mean, this army will be very bright spring, summer type stuff. So.
Yeah, well, for anyone who's seen anything of my Free City, it's quite a bright color scheme. Being I should have a model somewhere there I can show. Oh, here we go. It's quite a bright blue, and they've got bits of green on them. I'm painting up some. So a good model to use. Nope, the other one is the one I want. Quite a bright green on them as well.
Yeah.
That's a high elf bot for our crew. And so I'm doing bright. I can't wait to paint some Sylvaneth up with some bright colours to match them. And obviously, my 3 cities from the Realm of Life. So,
and that's the other reason I've started with these guys, with the simply because a lot of the other armies I've been painting lately have been quite dark colours. So I want to do something bright.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how the colour scheme for my free city came about, because I have my 2 biggest armies, which are my Wanderers and my Stormcast. My Stormcast was the blue, and so that's where the blue came from. And then my Wanderers I painted up in the base green, like the spring green scheme. So I literally put the 2 colours, and that's my free city colour.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, these are my 2 biggest armies. I'm not going to change them, and I'll make the free city a mix of the 2. But yeah, back onto like painting Sylvaneth. Like, they offer so much. They can be really simple, which is good. I think they're a really great army for that purpose. Is that as a beginner, you can paint up an army really quick.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of skills, like, or experience to be able to do so and make it look good.
Yeah.
But it's also an army that you can, as an experienced painter, and even as like the beginner picks up Sylvaneth army because he thinks it's easy, and it is easy to do a basic one. You can grow with the army as you get new stuff. As you get that first unit of Spite Revenants, you can try out different things like painting flesh and painting glowing eyes on your dryads. You can try and like then picking out runes on the tree lords and making them glow. You can practice flocking and making basing really fantastic. It's an army you can grow as a hobbyist with.
Grow.
Again. Yeah, it is. Like, you can really progress in the hobby with this army. You can start really basic, and the really basic doesn't hinder what you can further on from that, I guess.
I think we'll start to see, the Loon Curse box. We'll start to see more of it, I think. More of people starting and splitting that box. And we're going to see a fair few squigs and a fair few Sylvaneth armies out there.
That box, like I said, unfortunately it's run out now. And some people even might not get there, which is unfortunate. But once again, GW completely owned up to that, and they said, we put a number out of how many boxes we were making, and it sold miles better than they thought it would.
I just got a copy. I left my run later than I would, and yeah, it was gone everywhere, and I managed to score like one of the last copies.
Yeah, I got one from Irresistible Force online.
Mine. Yeah, because I would normally use Emerald Hobbies. Shout out.
Unfortunately, when I went to get mine, because I got mine pretty late, I was really surprised. I still managed to get one. And yeah, Emerald was sold out at that time. I'm like, crap. Mighty Ape was sold out.
We've gone from everywhere, and then Irresistible Force still had a couple, so woohoo.
Yeah, I think there might actually be one at the local computer store that sells Warhammer still for me. So I might go see if I can get a second one. But yeah, I think it just sold way better than they thought they would. Maybe a mix of things. Maybe they thought the Gloom Spike might not have sold as well because people had already bought the army. And I guess they thought Sylvaneth weren't that popular. And to be honest, they weren't all that prevalent, I guess, in the meta or anything.
Yeah, they were for a while there. Early on, there was a lot, but yeah, they not lately.
Yeah, I can see why they might have thought it might not sell as well. Like, there's a couple of reasons there. Sylvaneth didn't look like they were popular, and Gloomspite had only just had like a massive release, so you're assuming all those players are bought out of stuff.
But squigs are always hugely popular. Just for
I think. Well, squigs are one of those iconic Warhammer things. I put squigs and Skaven as like the 2 things Warhammer I think of that nothing else has things like squigs and Skaven.
Yeah, the whole sort of ball. Like, there's a few third-party companies that are running close to getting a intellectual property warning. I think there's a few companies that are trying to do similar things now. But
squigs are intellectual property, and they're trademarked as well. Like, the design of what a squig is trademarked by Games Workshop.
Yeah, so we'll be getting a cease and desist shortly, I think.
I mean, and you can't begrudge GW. You need to do that. Like, anyone who begrudges GW for making IP infringements on anything, you can't begrudge them, because you have to make them, or then people eventually get them for free.
And then we end up losing our hobby because GW don't make any money.
Then we lose a hobby. Like, yeah, that's a completely different argument, and we won't go too much more into that. But yeah, I think there's not much more really to talk about Sylvaneth. We've gone through how cool the army is to build and do that. We've gone through some of the basic narrative. If there is more a narrative of an update, we will come back and talk about them again.
Hopefully,
like I said,
battle tome.
Yeah. Hopefully that battle tome drops and all that shipping stuff is sorted out for everyone. I mean, I can't wait to get the new battle tome and have a read. I would say the new battle tomes and some of the narrative in the new battle tomes has been fantastic to read.
Even the story in Lunecurse was really cool.
Yeah, the War for a Dire. I don't want to spoil too much because it's sort of like a little novel in there, I guess, talking about that. And I guess for all those people playing Lunecurse, the narrative scenarios in there are really cool to play with and go through. So the next show, I guess we'll talk about is going to be on Forbidden Power. There's probably no secret that we'll talk about that. We'll talk about. We'll probably have a lot more information. We'll figure out how these mercenaries work and all that sort of juicy stuff. We'll have a look at the new army lists, and because they're both very narrative-based army lists, so we'll have a really good look at the narrative army lists in there.
Yep.
All the new rules, like some campaign rules, like you were alluding to before, like the weapons that grow as they get better, as you win games, and
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, there seems like there's quite a lot of narrative input. So yeah, that will be next fortnight. Next week on Monday night, I'll be doing the show with James Mabry from the Mortally Wounded podcast. Aussie Wargamers 3 weeks is a fortnight after the one with James Mabry, and so is Alexander Cron. And I'll try and me and Andrew are still trying to figure out a time for him. It's a bit of a poor time for him at the moment.
You too.
And then I'll probably post some videos up of me talking about my own narrative as well. I'm also looking, because people have been asking, I'll be posting some, not narrative stuff, but I'll be posting some tactic videos on the Scourge Privateers and talking about how I actually make them competitive, because people are starting to wonder how the hell I'm winning games against, I've played games against Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven now and beaten both armies with Privateers.
Well, I'll give you a hint. It's got to do with 20 million shots.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. And the fact I have a Hag Queen that's cheaper than a Hag Queen.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Indeed.
We'll probably, I guess, have a talk about your Order Serpentis quite at some point as well.
Well, same thing.
Like, no one expects you to do well, but you regularly go 2 and 3, 3 and 2 at events with them.
Yeah. Well, as I said, bit of a shock at Border Wars too, with just a mixed destruction list.
I still don't know. No one knows.
I don't know.
Every podcast I listen to, and they're just like, hey, I don't know. I don't know. Like normally only to third place gets mentioned, and then people just go, but hang on, you really need to know what happened at fourth.
Yeah. That was
all right. Narrative gaming taking the world by storm, coming fourth.
Yeah.
I mean, and we were both top 100 at CanCon as well. With
Free City.
You took a Free City army based around the Shadowhammer Compact Battalion in mixed order, so we didn't have any of the Daughters of Cain stuff in that. I guess hopefully by the next time I see it, I'll have 30 Liberators painted up for a Vanguard wing. Building some narrative around the Vanguard wing. Part of my because I have an entire storm host of Stormcast. Well, not storm host, sorry, a Warrior Chamber worth of Stormcast. So I think that's it for today. We will see you all in a fortnight. I'll see you all in a week when I do the show with James Mabry from the Mortally Wounded podcast. Definitely go give all three of you guys a check out, please, on Mortally Wounded podcast, Aussie Wargamer on YouTube, and Aethercast on YouTube. they're all fantastic guys, really great people in the hobby down here in Australia. If you are someone who has a lot of narrative and wants to share that, I'm more than happy to be contacted by you to get you on the show and talk about your own narrative. So please, if you have some cool narrative you want to talk about, just get in contact with me. You can do that on the Cineful Gaming page on Facebook. You can post on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar group that Cineful Gaming is got on the banner, or any one of the ones I run. Just tag me and talk to me through that. You can go find me on Twitter at DadHammerNeo, and yeah, or just follow me on there. I'll give you a follow back, and we can share some awesome hobby together. And Andrew, I'll pass it over to you to give all your details on how to find you.
I'm on at Lord of Tuatha on Twitter. I also run the 1 hour a night miniature hobby challenge painting page on Facebook. So yeah, have a look.
Yep. Awesome. So we will see you in a fortnight. I'll see you in a week. Thank you for watching, and bye.
See ya.